Hey, what's up? What's up? Sorry. So yeah, the video cut off before I did the last guy. I don't know how to edit, so what's it called? I didn't want to re-record the entire video just for because Devin Vassell, number 15, the last guy in this tier, didn't make it. So unfortunately, he'll be in his own little separate video here. But that's the way it is. Yeah, with him, it's not a huge. He has moved up a lot on my board since the beginning of the season, but it's really not that huge of a difference. Just kind of he shot really well, from example, from behind the 3 point line last year, but it was a really low samples, and his free throw percentage still remains not great. So I was a little bit skeptical of that translating. And he's a guy that doesn't get to the rim a huge amount, but he's made so many jumpers at this point, and many of them off the dribble, self creation situations and stuff like that. I definitely think he needs to improve his strength and his ball handling to utilize some of his physical talent, his length more off on the offensive end and get all the way to the basket. But I'm definitely a lot more confident about his jumper than I was after last season, despite his actual shooting numbers not taking a huge jump or anything. Um, and then on the defensive end, it's kind of a similar story where his numbers are actually very similar to where they were last year when you look at like the rate stats, like steal percentage, block percentage, like uh, what is it called, like per possession stats. Obviously his per game stats are much higher now because he's playing much more minutes per game. But on the rate level, they're very similar to where they were last year in many senses. But I think I'm much more confident in his defense now because first of all, I see it more against better competition, more consistently. Last year he played like 10, 15, 20 minutes in one game and then not play for 3 games, then play 2 minutes in the game, then play 20 minutes again, and so forth. And it was kind of up and down like that. And you didn't get to see him against a variety of different matchups and so forth. And just being a very young freshman last year, he made so many mistakes on the defensive end. Despite fairly impressive steals and blocks numbers, he was constantly out of position, getting lost, uh, uh, kind of failing to make the right decision defensively as far as positioning and anticipation, getting called ball watching or kind of missing rotations and stuff like that. If you go back and watch this film closely last year, there's a lot of mistakes and issues with his defense, and also teams being the younger player and a guy who doesn't get a huge amount of minutes last year. Teams were kind of often aggressive in attacking him, even despite some of his physical tools and all that. And in the games at least that I watched, had some pretty good success with that. Also, just kind of bullying him a little bit and getting him off his feet and getting him called for fouls or uh, you know uh, uh, running him into screens and getting open looks off the ball or even in pick and roll and stuff like that. Yeah, even though the steals and blocks were fairly impressive last year, I would say his defense overall definitely was not. Is a very young freshman and a guy not getting consistent playing time, and also didn't play at like a big school in high school or like didn't really was played with like a smaller AU club and stuff. So it was kind of understandable to some extent, but still was didn't I wasn't nearly as confident in his defensive play last year as I am now. So yeah, now like he's one of the more impactful wing defenders in the country, even though he still makes a decent share of mistakes. Not only on ball but as a team defender even as well, despite those impressive amount of events that he creates. But yeah, he's just without length and kind of his instincts for being both in the passing lanes, but also you know sliding down into the paint and acting kind of as a help side rim protector or getting kind of chase down blocks in transition. Even acting as kind of a the main rim protector at times, kind of the main interior defensive anchors in some times for Florida State this year because they do have some size as they always do coming off the bench, but their starting center Malik Osborne is kind of a smaller guy, not an incredible shot blocker, more of like a switch guy, player who's able to kind of switch across several positions, but not necessarily like an incredible rim protector and stuff like that, like paint deterrent or anything. And Vassell a lot of times has been like kind of the main guy inside, acting as the primary deterrent in the paint. Um, he's not going to be as effective as a 7 footer or somebody like that, and kind of intimidating guys and not kind of what is it like uh, literally like getting them not to shoot or stopping short of getting all the way to the rim and taking a more difficult shot or something like that. Like guys will go at him; they're not particularly like terrified of him as a rim protector, but he's been pretty effective when they do go at him and blocking shots or contesting them enough to force misses and stuff like that. So all of that stuff as a team defender has been, in my opinion, very valuable and really impressive and very promising. And kind of not only promising in his defense, but also in the sense that it showcases his athleticism and his length. I think I always knew he was fairly long, but this year it's really popped on film just how long his arms are. Um, and how much kind of ground and distance he covers with his wingspan, and probably has a very impressive standing reach as well. And also, I think he may have grown a little bit. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I do feel like as if he's like a legit like 6'7" or maybe even a little bit more than that now, whereas last year seemed closer to like a 6'6" flat and shoes or something like that. But don't quote me on that one. I'm just kind of going off of more a feel off that one. But just overall, in the even though he's still not very comfortable using his body on either end, in the majority of the scoring he does either like spotting up for like a jump shot or like spotting up for a jump shot, pump faking, and then take like a dribble in. He does have some like ISO plays, but again, like he'll take a few dribbles maybe, or even throw a crossover in there here and there, or post up a little bit like in high post type of stuff. But it almost always end either a pass. I'm not saying he's like a ball hog, but almost always when it's him shooting, almost always be a jump shot. But he has a very high release and has made some impressive, difficult ones, and has, despite not having like a huge usage, has been a decent amount of times, at least in the games I watched, kind of their main option when they need a basket in the half court, the shot clock is going down. Their kind of system hasn't yielded an open look per se. They'll you know they need to go to one particular guy to get him a basket, even though he never really gets all the way to the rim. They kind of trust him enough as a shot maker from perimeter to let him be that guy. And yeah, that's just bringing that up because that's kind of another thing last year. Even though his usage again was kind of similar in the small minutes that he got, I don't really recall seeing a lot of that where they actually went to him as their guy in half court self creation situations. There was a little bit maybe of that late in the season. He had that nice run in the ACC tournament and had a couple of nice performances in the NCAA tournament even. And so you saw a little bit of that in those games where he was really hitting his jumpers, like spot up jumpers and stuff like that. Um, Coach Hamilton and their staff kind of trusted him and let him go to work like one on one and like ISO type situations a couple times. But that was only a few times that I really recall that late in the season. Not really much of that, and it seemed more just because his shots were falling in those particular games at such a high efficiency, and he was so hot that they're like, let's just get it to the hot hand, but not because we trust this is our guy. Like we trust him to be the guy, or he's gonna be, even like he's gonna be our guy in the future necessarily or anything like that. It was just, oh, he has the hot hand right now. Let's get at the hot hand. Um, so yeah, and I think another thing I just thought of right now as I was talking is the reason maybe his usage somewhat similar is because whenever he would get hot as shooting the ball, first of all, he'd get more open looks because again, he barely played and a lot of he didn't play that many minutes in teams. He was like this young freshman coming out of nowhere, not particularly uh, uh, well regarded out of high school or anything. So teams kind of would leave him open to some degree at least, and uh, not even just that, but also the reason he would Hamilton would keep him in games, the games that he played more in, it's probably the games where his shot was really falling. So those are the games Leonard Hamilton would let him play more and play more minutes. So kind of uh, the games where he played a lot of minutes were games where he took a lot of shots relatively because he was hot. Um, and when the shot wasn't falling, he just wouldn't play a lot. So that kind of skewed his usage higher than, you know what I mean, like than it would be if he had consistently played a lot of minutes. You know, because if he had consistently played a good chunk of minutes per game, there would be some of those games where his shot wasn't really falling and they didn't really give him the ball that much. And I think overall his usage would be a little bit lower. Um, but yeah, um, that I just thought of that right now. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, just increased consistency on both ends and slight improvements physically, perhaps, and maturation as far as the feel for the game. Uh, I think Vassell has really put it together as a 3 and D prospect this year, and that's why I have him all the way up at number 15 now. But yeah, that's my tier 3. I'll be back. Hopefully tomorrow I'll finish tier 2 and tier 1. They should be a little quicker somewhat also. All right, later.